There she is, Candace Owens.
Hi,
Great. Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for joining us. Really
You're
appreciate
always
it.
so well dressed, and here I am since becoming a mom, wearing a jumper.
Yeah, but I saw your photos for you on the Daily Wire and your new show, Candace, and you look like a model. So you did a photo shoot somehow.
Thank you.
And congrats on being a mother. Congrats to you and George and just everybody. It's just, you look like you're just really loving it, is the way it looks.
Yeah, it's been a very easy transition. Fortunately, I know some people have very difficult babies, but we have a baby that has just been a godsend. So I guess this is the best chapter of our lives when you get to start
Wow.
a family. It really is.
It really is. It seems to suit you. And so congrats to you and George, and of course, your father-in-law, Michael, we've had on the show. And just, it's like a family thing here with the Owens and Farmers. So it's really good. And thanks for coming on today. I think last time we spoke, I really had no political ambitions. And in the past 9 months to a year, Candace, I was looking at this city and it's run by this Labor mayor and he was running it into the ground. I didn't like the decisions they made last year. And I just thought, if I don't do this, what am I gonna tell my sons who are 3 and 4 years old? Like, what did Daddy do back in 2021? Did you make another YouTube video, or did you actually try to do something about it? So I decided to run. The bookmakers had us in second place from the start, and we're still there. And elections are 2 days away. What do you think of all that, Candace?
Well, I think it's quite an ambition to want to get into politics. It's dirty. Politics is dirty business. Especially in this day and age. I think we've never seen such partisanship across the world, really. And it's interesting though because I'm a big believer that actually the world is becoming increasingly more conservative, despite the media, which is blaring out this very leftist, socialist, communist perspective. And so I think a lot of these elections are going to be disruptive because the people are tired of wokeism. You know what I mean? We're just tired of woketopia. We're tired of being told that we're horrible human beings because we want to live their lives. I've been shocked being across the pond, if you will, at the state of London, London being locked down into perpetuity. I think it's disappointing, especially with Boris Johnson as the prime minister. So you can hardly say, oh, well, this is because of the Labour Party or this, this or that. It's just, this is not what freedom is. And I think something that really speaks to how much the generations have changed, how much the Brits have changed, how much the Americans have changed, is the recent passing of Prince Philip and reading everything he lived through. And then you kind of fast forward to his grandson sitting down with Oprah complaining about how difficult it's been to be a multimillionaire. And that really is the story of how much the generations have shifted in the wrong direction. And so we need to bring it back. And we bring it back by providing honest assessments, and perspective is my favorite word. And I'm always comparing myself against my grandfather whenever I feel like I might want to complain about something. I think about the fact that my grandfather was a sharecropper who wasn't allowed to go to school, who had his first job in a segregated South, laying out tobacco to dry when he was 5. And I think that right now, conservatism is desperately needed across the country, the perspective that conservatism brings.
Yeah, it's so powerful you say that. And, I've been having flashbacks to my grandparents recently. And I remember I was in Phoenix, Arizona, and my grandma drove by a field with me about 8, 10 years ago. And she said, "You see that field? Your grandpa pulled stumps out of the ground for 2 years
Mm,
before he could plant the cotton." And, I don't think I complained about anything for a year after she said that. And so
mm,
it's always important to see your grandparents' perspective. And the thing I love about Britain, probably what you love about it, is that indomitable spirit that it just kind
mm.
of, the history of this country and everything they went through. And like you said, with Prince Philip, and you just look at his whole life and you're like, oh, wow, he was on a warship in Italy. He was doing all these things. And
I mean, the boys, even the boys at Dunkirk. I mean, it's really a
yeah,
sad state. And now you've got people that think they're being personally attacked if they see someone not wearing a mask. I mean, it's
yeah.
just pathetic. It's gotten to the point where it's pathetic. And I see these images of wear a mask, you save lives, and do all of this stuff. And it's like these people think they're courageous because they're staying locked in their homes, and they're masking themselves and not seeing their grandparents, who, by the way, if you actually spoke to those grandparents, none of them are asking for you to lock yourselves at home. Certainly not my grandfather. He's like, if you think I will, after living through all of that, my grandfather is still alive, if you think I'm going to believe the government wants to help me by keeping me imprisoned at home away from my family, and that's how I want to leave this earth, you've lost your mind. And what really is that it's cowardice, that is being dressed up as virtue. And we have somehow accidentally given birth to the largest group of cowards that have ever walked the face of the planet, and the most privileged cowards that have ever walked the face of the planet, right? And that in that they're connected, right? Cowardice is linked to privilege. It is a privilege to be a coward,
Mm.
you know, and so people are tired of it, you know, and especially the Brits. My husband said, you know, obviously he's in America now and born and raised in London. And he said, eventually the Brits will just get tired of it. Right. They'll just get tired of it. Right. And they'll be like, all right, we've got to get on with it. And it's very inspiring to see people protesting and saying, you know what, we're done with this. We want to get our lives back. We want to be able to provide for our families. And people, we've done this in way worse times and in way worse conditions. You know, America, when we were fighting the Brits, the Revolutionary War, that was during a pandemic, a real pandemic. When I say that, I mean, it was way worse than the coronavirus. And people got on with it and they did what they had to do. And so I think we need leaders that are not fearful. I think Boris Johnson, since he's had the coronavirus, has been fearful. And it is time for people that are willing to sacrifice it, to go into politics, to do that unabashedly, without reserves, and unapologetically in terms of the media interpretation and the media trying to create a pressure campaign to make you do one thing or the other. And that's why we miss Trump.
Yeah. Well, I was frustrated last year because I saw that the mayor and the prime minister, you know, they didn't provide solutions or innovations. They just locked things down. They didn't try to work with business. They started, you know, taking away some of our freedoms. And we fought a whole battle last year about just having freedom of speech, just being able to say what you want to say. And then I looked at the current mayor, and it's just like, you know, they use fear. They use fear as a weapon, and then they weaponize it against the population. And then they have you on their side, and then they push through these weird agendas. And even a few months ago, I'm talking about how we can rebuild London's economy. We're in the worst recession in 300 years. We could actually become one of the greatest cities in the world if we got our act together quickly. And he's creating a committee to rename statues in London. And again, he uses these emotional triggers to kind of scare people that, you know, and get them divided and fighting with each other. Whereas I'm trying to look at this great vision of what London could be, this great city, great financial capital, great place where there's minds and ideas, but give people their freedoms back, freedom to work, freedom to make choices about their health. You know, they say now protect the NHS, but then they won't open gyms up, and they encourage you to eat fast food, and they encourage you to go to the pub. And it's like, where are the
Yeah, I
freedoms?
mean, it's like, but even that, I mean, this even became very pathetic. And, you know, this whole idea that you have to end your life to protect nurses and doctors from doing their job. You know, you didn't go to become a nurse and a doctor so that the world would make sure you didn't have to do your job when the going got tough. I mean, nurses and doctors used to just be a sign-up thing during wars, right? It was people dragging bodies into their homes, taking care of people, not knowing what diseases they carried. They never said, "Oh, please don't fight this war because we're overwhelmed right now, and you know there's a lot of soldiers. We're a little bit overwhelmed." And this is the trick they play on you. Like, you're a horrible human being for wanting to get on with your life. And here's the thing. You're not required to be a nurse, right? I love and appreciate everything that nurses and doctors have done. But if you feel that you are too afraid to do your job, you shouldn't be a nurse. Similarly, if you sign up, to go to war, if you sign up to be in the military and the Navy and you're too fearful to do that, you shouldn't sign up to be in the military and the Navy, right? And so the idea that I have to stop living my life because you're fearful that, you know, you're going to have to do your job is just wrong. And all of the cowards who push that, Piers Morgan, oh, you're selfish if you go see your mother. I mean, how dare you? How dare you say to any living human being that they are selfish for wanting to see their family? What an absolute garbage take to have. You're a coward for wanting to be with your family is what a communist government says when they want the government to become your family. Right? When they want you to turn
Yeah.
to the government for answers. You do not ever let any government in the entire world tell you when, where, and how you can see your family members. And I just could not believe that the coronavirus, a different kind of a coronavirus, comes around, and everyone has lost their collective minds. And the reason for that, by the way, and is because people have lost faith, right? And what at the core of this is that atheism is corroding our values and turning us into cowards. Atheists believe that this is all that matters, right? That they're so narcissistic, right? Death is the ultimate fear for an atheist, right? Because there's nothing beyond, nothing matters. They'd rather never see their family and live their lives in their basement than risk getting a cold because the media says that they might get this cold and there's a chance they can die. By the way, your chance of dying is 100%. You're going to die, right? How amazing that the government was able to remove all of these powers for something that I can guarantee you not a single person in the entire world is going to be able to avoid, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, I look around and I'm just I don't know how we got here in terms of the absolute cowardice, especially men. I mean, I was 9 months pregnant. I traveled to coronavirus. I didn't care. I'm like, I'm not, me. I'm just whatever.
Yes.
Pregnant. And I've got men, grown men, right? I'm 9 months pregnant saying, could you please put your mask over your nose? You know what I did? I would take my mask off and I would say, you are a pathetic, poor excuse for a man. How dare you? How about asking if I need you to open the door? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's just, it's pathetic. The whole thing is pathetic.
Yeah, I mean, it made us ask a lot of questions about our own mortality. Are people even comfortable with their own death? We haven't even considered our own death. And so again, also asked another question you said about, do we fundamentally think people are good or bad? I think we're good. My whole show, London Real, is about showing off the greatness in people. But like you said, this other agenda seems to say, we're bad, we're bad, we're bad. You're always doing bad things. You all should be punished for bad things. It's like this weird philosophy, and then it
Well, it's not that
infects
they think
everything
people are
around us.
bad. I don't think they believe people are bad. I think they believe people are fundamentally stupid. And the issue is
Right.
that we keep proving them right, right? And so the governments always need an existential crisis to push through radical reform. So in America, like income tax, for example, unfathomable. Civil War comes around and they say, well, this is a crisis. Now we need to income tax. We need to tax, part of what you earn. It's just temporary. It's never temporary, by the way. The government never willingly gives you back powers they've taken away. And then the crisis is removed and they say, oh, well, now we're going to pass an amendment. And that's always going to be allowed. Now income tax is legal. With the coronavirus pandemic, Facebook fact checking, right? And fact checking is just to keep the integrity of elections. We're going to censor opinions we don't like, essentially, and then it's just temporary. It's just for voting. Have they stopped fact checking, which is
No.
just another fancy word for censorship? No. And so people that were so willing to go, it's 2 weeks. What was it? 2 weeks to stop the curve. What was the expression they were saying? And I was laugh out loud. Are you guys ridiculous? Do you actually believe the government is going to give you back your ability to open your restaurants in 2 weeks because you've listened to them? Right? Absolutely not. And now it's been over a year. And people are still going through this. And this is happening because people were too much of cowards, right? To say, you know what? Under no scenario, even if there was the bubonic plague, does the government have the right to tell me that I can't open my store? If people don't want to come to my store, if patrons are fearful, that's their right. They should have the right to say, you know what? I think you're mad for opening the store and I will not be stepping foot in it. I will be staying in my house. That is what freedom works. That is how freedom should always operate. You have the ability to make the best choice for you. If you want to be fearful, if you want to get vaccinated, if you want to stay at home, you can do that. And if I choose not to, I can do that. And I think that we've lost touch with that in this generation. What
How do you?
is freedom?
Yeah, yeah, and we have to question that all the time about what is our freedom. We were stopped by the police about 4 months ago, and I was told I was banned from campaigning. I wasn't allowed to campaign because it wasn't being done in a COVID secure manner. At the time, I was walking down the middle of the street talking to my phone. 10 police officers surrounded me. I said, "This seems very political," and the whole thing was wrong. And it was just a basic freedom to allow people information about their candidate, for example. And now everyone's talking about these vaccine passports, and it's just all about where are the basic freedoms that we need.
That is sick. I
Um,
mean, it's sick, and people are too. And then this idea talking about and obviously, like, I'm a Christian, but the Bible, even if you read it objectively and not as a Christian, just and what you learn from it, idolatry, the way the government utilizes idolatry, right? have people not been weirded out? I don't care if you are pro-vaccine, anti-vaccine. If you're like me, I believe in vaccines. I won't be getting the COVID-19 vaccine. It's just rushed. I'm in my baby making years. I'm not comfortable with it. But this whole idea of a celebrity campaign to make people do something like sticking a needle in their arm is sick. That is so collectivist. I'm going to give you a sparkly celebrity and they're going to roll up their sleeve and get an injection. You're going to do it because they did it. That is the full suspension of critical and individual thinking. Do not tell me to get something because a celebrity has done it, right? You're marketing a vaccine, a medical decision using celebrities, trying to create a peer pressure campaign. I mean, I'm so old that when I grew up, I learned that do drugs because everybody else is doing it is not a good idea, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and people have to make individuals. We're not all the same. I have asthma. I have allergies. There are people that are allergic to styrofoam. You know what I mean? And the idea that you're just going to do something because they created a campaign, right? If you don't, you're a COVID-idiot. No, if I don't, it's because I'm an individual and I have examined the facts as an individual. By the way, I respect you if you examined your facts separately and you decided it was a risk worth taking. And people are too fearful to say that, to say I'm not going to be peer pressured because Britney Spears, oh, well, Britney Spears got a shot. She's never done anything wrong. Let me go ahead and get a shot. I mean, I guess I got to do it. Look at all the cool kids are doing it. You know, it's pathetic. And that really, again, shows you that fundamentally it isn't a battle of good or evil. The government thinks we're stupid. And the collectivist mentality that's seeping through the mainstream media, right? The other day, Prince Harry, Prince Harry really wants his privacy, which is why he got on center stage in Los Angeles in front of thousands of people and told them, we are global citizens. No, we are not. I am not a global citizen. I am a citizen of the United States of America. Thank you very much, right? And this whole idea, we're all in this together. The messaging on this has been communist and creepy. No, we are not all in this together, right? This is my household. This is what the decisions that me and my husband make in our household for our children, right? We are aware of what is going on in the world. We are American citizens. Well, I'm an American citizen. My husband's a British citizen, right? And we're going to make decisions that are best for us. Even that, people need to realize what is happening. The messaging is trying to raise children up to believe that they have a duty outside of themselves, right? That there is a higher good that they must serve. And that is so written into the DNA of the Communist Manifesto. Government is God, right? And we are to serve government, and that is wrong, right? Faith and family first. It boggles my mind what has happened in the last year. It is sick.
yeah. And you've been really vocal about calling out celebrities and the Hollywood culture and the fact that we prop these people up and take their word for it, even though they're oftentimes some of the least informed people. But again, it's this whole kind of celebrity culture that's like leading the blind and getting us to do things that it doesn't make sense. And you've called them out. You've gone head to head with a lot of them,
Yeah.
Candace. How do you stay focused when everyone is criticizing you? How do you do that? Because it's amazing.
Well, I don't get my sense of security and my ideas from what everybody else says. And that is what I'm giving for the people that follow me and support me. I'm giving them the permission to be audacious, to be an individual, to not subscribe to collectivist ideologies because they're crap, right? There's nothing good that comes from Hollywood. And sometimes people do, oh, why are you taking a position on this? I took a position on something and going to something British, Harry Styles wearing a dress on the cover of Vogue, right? I don't have an issue with Harry Styles. He seems like a perfectly nice lad, right? I'm sure he's a very nice person. We have some friends in common. The issue I have is with Vogue and why they made a decision to put a man in the dress. We know what's coming down the pipeline right now in terms of culture. Gender bending, right? Kids can pick their gender. This is not the way the world was, okay? The CIA, our CIA, putting out a woke message. I don't know if you saw this yesterday in America. The CIA put out a campaign, to show that they're going woke. It's just, it's sick, weak, pathetic stuff that the East is just sitting by, waiting to take over the world. I mean, China and Russia must be laughing their collective butts off at what is going on in the West, right? Going, now the men want to be women. They don't know what bathrooms to go into, right? They'll do anything as long as a celebrity does it. So how do we make sure that celebrities do and say what we think? And really anything that suddenly Hollywood picks up very quickly and tries to make cool, you should question. You should question because there are sinister motives that operate behind them. The celebrities are not smart. These are your average actor, right? Is a high school dropout, right? Who knows absolutely nothing about politics and is a narcissist, right? Who gets their sense of self by believing that they're the cool kids at the table. I attack them because they're not the cool kids at this table. They're the dumb kids. They're the kids that peaked in high school, right? I don't need Cardi B telling me what to think about politics. Neither should you.
Yeah. Candace, is this getting better or worse in your opinion? Are more people opening their minds to this different narrative, this longer term narrative, or do you think more people are getting swallowed up by, what's happening on Twitter and what celebrities are saying? Which way is it going?
It's getting better, because if it wasn't getting better, there wouldn't be a need for censorship. There was no censorship when Obama was in office because the majority of people thought in the way that he thought. They have, since Trump went into office, they have tried to radically reform the internet, right? Since Brexit happened, they have tried to radically reform the internet because they are realizing that people are no longer buying what the Hollywood celebs are selling, right? That they thought all we have to do is control Hollywood and everything that we want will become a thing. And that worked for a very long time. It's not working anymore. I saw yesterday in the New York Times that they said, we're never going to reach herd immunity because only 1/3 of Americans have gotten the vaccine. And I said to myself, regardless of your perspective on vaccines, I was very happy to hear that, because the $1 billion campaign that went behind vaccines should tell you that Americans are making decisions for themselves, that they're no longer just listening to the media. And like I said, and I had the president on my show this week, he said, I think they made a mistake and people aren't getting vaccinated. And I said the president, talking about President Trump. He said, I think people are not getting vaccinated because they pulled the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. That was a disaster. And I said, actually, I think the reason they're not getting vaccinated is because people are not allowing the free flow of ideas. They don't trust censorship. When I see something that says false information, let me tell you why, missing context, my instinct isn't, oh, well, let me not look at this. My instinct is, why are we having censorship on this? Why are doctors being censored who might have a different perspective? If they had an honest conversation, right, about vaccines, and someone said, I got the vaccine and I was totally fine, and then someone else said, actually, I got the vaccine, I had a bad reaction, I would be more inclined to believe that it might be a good idea for me to get the vaccine, because I'm like, well, they're allowing this dialogue to happen, right? Obviously, for everything in the world, people have weird reactions. People are allergic to penicillin, Tylenol. What do you guys call it in the UK? We call Tylenol. You guys call it, is it paracetamol?
Yeah, paracetamol, I think it is. Yeah, paracetamol, yeah.
Right. And people don't have a good reaction. The censorship that has gone around any perspective outside of COVID-19 is, the COVID-19 never-ending CDC says this, is making people uncomfortable. It doesn't seem like we live in a free country, right? And that is what it's actually causing the opposite desired effect. People are not becoming more collectivist, they're becoming more individualistic because they've never seen this level of censorship before. So I'm optimistic. I don't think Trump could have been president. I don't think they would have censored Trump off of the internet. I don't think he would have gained 10 million votes, despite the media running a 4-year unrelenting campaign against him, right? Picked up votes in Black America, amongst double the support amongst Black women, and 8 points higher amongst Black men. None of that could have happened if people were believing the mainstream media. And that makes me feel good.
Yeah, we really experienced censorship firsthand last year. We had the second largest YouTube live stream in the world on April 6th, second only to Trump's coronavirus briefing on the same day. And our video was then banned and deleted. I had a very public fight. So people that don't know, again, Candace, I spent 9 years broadcasting videos live on YouTube. And then that one time we started being censored, content was pulled. And so I've been through the whole ringer on that with Facebook, with Dropbox, with PayPal, with LinkedIn, deplatform, pulled, this and that. I think we shared a lawyer that went after Facebook, and we tried to battle these giants. Then we created our own platform, and we just kept pushing and kept fighting. And it's one of my platforms as the next mayor of London is freedom of speech, digital freedom of speech, and just making sure that narrative keeps getting pushed, because people forget. They just, they look and they think Google, we talked about this when you were on London Real. Google's not a search engine, it's an agenda engine. But a lot of people still don't know that. And so something you have to
I use
constantly talk about.
DuckDuckGo. It's clunkier, but I don't use Google because I know that it filters my results, and it's amazing. I will type something into Google, and then just to type it into DuckDuckGo when I'm looking for something, especially anything COVID-19. I mean, obviously every vaccine under the sun, You know what I mean? And they're trying to censor this information off the internet, which is just bizarre. You don't need to do that. That's not going to make people, it's going to make people uncomfortable that you're censoring this, right? And so, you know, when I want to have follow stories or just see kind of like what's going on, I don't use Google as a search engine. And that might make them upset, you know, to realize that people are no longer buying it. But I think that one of the beautiful things about the pendulum swinging so far left so quickly is that it, you know, physics tells us that it needs to swing back the other way very hard. So,
Yeah,
and I think that's
yeah.
what we're seeing right now.
I think it is, and we're getting a ton of support in the streets from people are pro business, pro reality, pro uncensored message. It's big out there, and I think the polls and the mainstream media and the Labor Party, they're trying to make us out as this this anomaly, and yet we have so much more support than they think. And in 2 days' time, we really think we're going to create a big upset and show them that people in the streets really respect this stuff. People came after me last year for my censored content. But people on the street say, I would rather make the choice to listen to something. And I've had people on the street say, Brian, I didn't agree with what that guest had to say. And I said, okay, but did they have the
Good.
right to say it? And they always say, of course. And I said, well, does Ofcom, the regulator here, have a right to not even let you hear it? Does Google have a right to not let you hear it? And they all say, of course not. And so it's been a funny battle here.
Right.
I've got digital
Because we're smart
platforms, but
enough to take ideas. Yeah. And we're smart enough to hear different ideas and to say, you know what? That sounds crazy. And I don't believe that. And right now, the government is telling you you're not smart enough to do that.
yeah,
Big
yeah.
tech is smart enough. And big tech is going to tell you what to think. We're not even going to let you see any other perspective. And unfortunately, that isn't working in big tech's favor. And like I said, I remain optimistic about the future. And I sense that they are very fearful. They've never, you know, they're jumping through hoops to pass legislation and to, you know, make sure that conservatives can't have a different platform. I mean, I joined Parler. I hope everyone joins Parler. I think they're relaunching again next week. They're back in the Apple Store. Get off of Twitter, you know, get off of Facebook, and you know, free market is a solution to this. Let the free markets be the free markets. The majority of us don't agree with the way our countries are going, and we have to show them that by making efforts every single day to transform the way that we act that gives these companies that kind of power, right? It's our fault. We've empowered them, but the beauty is that we can take that power away from them at any moment, and they know that. So yeah, I mean,
Politics,
that's really all I have to say.
that is it. I know. Let's stop treating people like children. They're adults. They can make their own
Mm.
decisions about what they put in their bodies and in their brains. Final bits of advice for me going into politics. And of course, then everyone wants to know, Candace, when are you going into politics? So those are my last two questions.
Advice for you. Keep yourself grounded. You always have to know what matters. And for me, it's, you know, my family is first, always, at the end of every single day. You know, don't lose your soul because it seems like it's a satanic cult. People go in and they come out differently. And for me, who knows? I was just had Trump on my show. I told him he and I should run in 2024. We'll see if it happens.
Hey, wait, last time you were on my show, Candace, you said you were only going to do it if you were going to be president.
Yeah, but you know, and then I looked at the White House, and actually the decor is not as nice as the vice president's residence, which is just up the street. And so it's an aesthetic decision for at the moment. No, I'm kidding. But you know, if Trump runs in 24, I would support Trump. I would
Okay.
because my opinion is that some people said, "Oh no, he shouldn't run." You know, his name has been so tarred and feathered by the left and the media, and I said, "Oh, so we're going to let them win, right? So we're going to say a lie told enough times suddenly becomes a truth. It doesn't, and they're fearful of him running. They say they won legitimately, but they're trying to pass legislation so he can never run again. That seems weird if they beat him by so many votes. And yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens in this country, but you know, I'm optimistic.
You are, Candace, and you're an inspiration to me. I see you sometimes going straight into the fire, and I go, oh my gosh, you're honestly, you're like, modern day Joan of Arc. You go right in there, and again, you're always a shining example for just staying with your convictions and going in no matter what. You don't hesitate. You go for it, and it's inspirational. So everybody should just get that. If you believe in something, then believe in it and go all in. And that's what I learned from you, Candace. So thank you. I also keep seeing everybody replacing your book in front of everybody else's book in the bookstore.
Oh,
So
it's been so fun.
I feel bad for.
Blackouts, the BS that you see. Find a copy of Blackout and black out all the other books, the anti-racism, white guilt type books. Also buy a copy.
Yeah, get a copy. It's amazing, and you're amazing. So just want to say thank you. Thank you to George and your family. Bless with your new baby. That's incredible. And come back to London, sit in the leather chair, and
Absolutely.
we'll go further. All right. So thanks,
Thank you guys
Candace.
so much for having me.